Good morning, everyone. My name is Pooja Bansal, TGT Science from Kendriya Vidyalaya, Kamla Nehru Nagar, Ghaziabad. As we all know that every organism of the living world, whether it is a plant, an animal, or a microorganism like virus, bacteria, unicellular eukaryotes, is unique in itself. And this uniqueness of the individual is the basis of diversity that is shown by the living organism. So today, under chapter 7 of class 9th, we are going to study diversity in living organism. Before starting this chapter, here we are dealing with the new terms, that is biodiversity. So what is biodiversity? As the name suggests, bio means life and diversity means variety. So biodiversity, the variety in the living organism exists on the earth, is called biodiversity. Another is taxonomy. Taxonomy is a biological science which deals the identification, nomenclature and classification of the organism. Now, what is binomial nomenclature? So, binomial nomenclature system was suggested by Swedish botanist Carolus Linnaeus, who is also known father of binomial nomenclature. According to the binomial nomenclature, every organism is given a specific name for identity. The scientific name includes terms, in which the first term is the name of the genus and second term is the name of the species. Now, classification of living organism. Living organisms have evolved on earth over millions of years. There is a vast variety of living organisms. Living organism shows a wide range of varieties. To understand and study all these organisms is impossible if they are arranged in two groups based on their similarities in the characteristics, then it is easier to study the different group as a whole. So, classification of living organism is the arranging of organism into different groups on the basis of similarity in their characteristics is called the classification of living organism. Here now, what is the importance of classification? We are going to classify the organism. So what is the importance? So here is, it makes the study of a wide variety of living organism easy. It is essential to understand interrelationship among different groups of the organism. Also, it forms a base for the development of other biological sciences. Here the hierarchy of the classification, that what is the hierarchy? So living organisms have been broadly classified into 5 main kingdoms. They are Moneras, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Each kingdom has been further classified into smaller subgroups at various levels. They are kingdom, phylum, class, family, genus and species. Here, what is species? A species is a basic unit of classification. It is a group of organisms which are similar enough to breed and perpetuate. Here, through this flow chart, let us understand the classification. that organisms are divided into two categories, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes, as we studied earlier, that prokaryotes are those in which in the cell nucleus is not well developed, or we can say nuclear wall is not there. Under eukaryotes, in which nucleus and nuclear wall is properly distinguished, they are further categorized into two categories, unicellular and multicellular. Under unicellular, we will study Protista kingdom, Protista, and under multicellular, it is further divided into two categories on the basis of cell wall. So first is with the cell wall and the other is without cell wall. With cell wall is further divided into two categories. The first, those do not perform photosynthesis. Under that we will study fungi. The another one, those able to perform photosynthesis. So they will be studied under the kingdom Plantae. Now next, that is without cell wall, in which we will study the kingdom Animalia. Now here we are going to start our first kingdom, Moneras, in which we study the prokaryotic bacteria and blue-green algae. So the characteristics of Monera kingdoms are, they are mostly prokaryotic. Some of them have cell wall or not have cell wall. Their mode of nutrition is autotropics or heterotropics. Autotropics means they are able to prepare their food by the process of photosynthesis, and heterotropic, they depends on other for their food. Now the example of moneras are bacteria, blue-green algae, cyanobacteria, mycoplasm, etc. The second kingdom, that is Protista, in which we will study the unicellular or eukaryotic organism as protozoans, fungi and algae. They have the following characteristics. They are eukaryotic unicellular organisms. They are mostly aquatic. They have appendages such as hair-like structure, cilia, or white-like flagella for its movement. Their mode of nutrition can be autotropic or heterotropic. And the example of kingdom Protista are algae, diatoms, protozoa, etc. You can see amoeba, euglena, paramecium at the bottom of the slide. Now we are on the third kingdom, that is fungi, and under fungi we will study the multinucleated higher fungi. And the characteristic of these kingdoms are, they are heterotropic, eukaryotic, multicellular organisms. Some of them are saprotropic, other are parasite. They have cell wall, and the example of fungi are yeast, mold, mushroom, lichen, etc. At the bottom of slide you can see the mushroom, yeast and mold, so that we able to identify them. Now we are on the fourth kingdom, that is kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Plantae includes multicellular green plant and advanced algae, and the characteristics are, they are eukaryotic multicellular organisms and they are autotropic, means they are able to prepare their food by the process of photosynthesis. They have cell wall, and the examples of this kingdom is all green plants. Fifth kingdom, Animalia, in which we study multicellular animals. They have eukaryotic multicellular organism. They can move, but not all the animals are capable to move. They cannot perform photosynthesis. They have no cell wall. They are heterotropic, And the some of example of Animalia are cycon, hydra, liver fluke, earthworm, insect, octopus, starfish, balanglossus, etc. Now further classification of plantae. Plantae are divided into 5 groups. They are Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperm and Angiosperm. So here is the flowchart representing the division that plants are further divided into 2 categories. First, they do not have differentiated plant body, and another is have differentiated plant body. Do not have differentiated plant body consist Thallophyta. Thallophyta, the name suggests thallus-like body. The other is have differentiated plant body. The division under that is without specialized vascular tissue. Under that, we will study about Bryophyta, in which they have lack of vascular tissue. The another criteria for division is with the vascular tissue, and that further categorized into do not produce seed or produce seeds. Those who does not produce seeds, in that category we will study Pteridophyta, and those plants who produce seeds and studied under Phanerogames. Phanerogames further divided into the categories like bare-necked seeds or bare seed inside the fruit. So necked seeded are studied under Gymnosperm, and bare seeds inside fruit will studied under Angiosperms. Now Angiosperm is further divided into 2 categories on the basis of presence of number of cotyledons. So have seed with the 2 cotyledons named as dicot, and have seed with 1 cotyledons known as monocots. Now the first division, that is Thallophyta. As the name suggests, Thallophyta means thallus-like body. So those plants having thallus-like body structure, it means their body is not differentiated, properly not differentiated. So they do not have well differentiated body design. They are single plant without root, stems or leaves. The plant in this group is commonly called algae. They are mostly aquatic. Some of the example of thallophytes are Spirogyra, Eulothrix, Chara, Ulva, etc. You can identify those all through the figures. Other division is Bryophyta. The characteristics of Bryophytas are, these are called the amphibian of the plant kingdom. Amphibian. The name suggests amphi means both. Though it means bryophytes are those plants which are capable to survive on water as well as on land. That's why these plants are known as amphibian of the plant kingdom. Their body is commonly differentiated to form stem and leaf-like structure. They have no specialized structure for the conduction of water and other substances from one part of the plant body to the other. They have no vascular tissue. Vascular tissue, student, as you all remember, vascular tissue consists of xylem and phloem. So there is a lack of vascular tissue in the phylum Bryophyta. Some of the example of Bryophyta are Funaria, Merkensia, Rixia, etc. Now we goes to the third group, third division, that is Pteridophyta. Pteridophyta consists the following characteristics. They do not produce seed. They have vascular tissue for the conduction of water and food. So Pteridophyta is the first one group which having a development of vascular tissue in their body. The plant body is differentiated into roots, stems and leaves, And some of the example of Pteridophyta are Marsilia and fern. The another division, that name is Gymnosperm. Gymnosperm consists of the following characteristics. Gymnosperm divided from two words. Gymno means naked and sperm means seeds. So gymnosperms combinedly called naked-seeded plant. They produce seeds and have vascular tissue. They are usually perennial, evergreen and woody. Their seeds are naked. It means the seed is not covered with a seed coat. The example of gymnosperms are Cycas, Pinus, etc. Now the last division in Plantae, that is Angiosperm. Angiosperm derived from two words. Angio means covered with a covered seed and sperm means the seed. So angiosperms consist of seed which is covered with a seed coat. Their seeds are covered. They are flowering plant. The plant embryo in the seed have cotyledons. Angiosperms are divided into two groups on the basis of the number of cotyledons. Single cotyledons known as monocot, where double cotyledons known as dicots. The seed of the plant are developed into fruit. The example of angiosperms are green gram, pea, tamarind, etc. Now, students, let me start the classification of Animalia. As you see, variety of animals around you or another places also. So again, it become very important to classify those all animals into different categories so that their study become easy. So they are divided into 10 groups as Porifera, Coelenterata, Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Protochordata and Vertebrata. So let me start them all. Animal kingdom is further divided into two categories. Invertebrate are those organisms that does not having chordata or does not having vertebra, and vertebrata are in the phylum of chordata. Invertebrates, they are further divided on the basis of their body level structure. The first is on the basis of cellular level, in which we will study some porifers. Another level is the tissue level organization, in which we study cnidarians. And another is organ and organ system level, in which we divide them on the basis of the body cavity present in them, acoelomate and coelomate. Acoelomate means there is no body cavity, and coelomate means body cavity is present. So under acoelomate we will study two phylums, Platyhelminthes as well as Nematoda. But under coelomates we will study phylum Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca and Echinodermata. Into the another category, that is vertebrates, we will study 5 phylum. There are 5 classes. They are Paces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves and Mammalia. So let us start with the porifers. Porifera, the word porifera means organism having holes. It means their body is perforated by numerous holes. They are non-motile animals attached to some solid surfaces. They have pores in their body. Their whole body is covered with numerous pores. They are diploblastic. It's a new term for everyone of you. Diploblastic means they having 2 germinal layer, They are formed by two germinal layers. They are ectoderm and endoderm. So porifers are diploblastic. They have a hard outer skeleton and do not have any tissue. Some of the example of porifers are cycon and spongilla. So this is all enough about porifer. Now the another phylum is Coelenterata. So Coelenterata is also known cnidarians, having the following characteristics. They are the aquatic animals. They are diploblastic. Diploblastic, already I have told you that they are made by double layer at their ectoderm and mesoderm. They are formed by double layer. There is a cavity in the body, and some lives in the colonies and other are single. Some of the example of Coelenteratas are corals, hydra, jellyfish, etc. You can see hydra and another animal is also mentioned at the bottom. Now the another phylum, that is Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes, they are triploblastic. Now there is a difference. The last you have studied diploblastic animals, that their body is made by double layer at the time of development, and here we have studied the word triploblastic, means at the time of development their body is formed by triple layer, ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. So that's why we use the word triploblastic. They have flat body which is bilateral symmetrical. Bilateral symmetrical means their body is having symmetrical. Is symmetrical, we can divide them equally two parts. That's why we use the word bilateral symmetry. So they have flat body which is bilateral symmetrical, and they do not have true body cavity. They may be free living or parasitic. Parasitic, they depends on other for the nutrition. The example of some of the platyhelminthes are planaria, liver fluke, tapeworm, etc. The another phylum that we have is Nematoda. Nematoda have cylindrical body. They are bilaterally symmetric. It means their body is having two laterals, that is bilateral symmetry. They are triploblastic. They have tissue but not a real organs. They are parasitic. They have pseudocoelom, means their coelom is not properly developed, so that's why they have coelom, but that is not properly developed, so that's why we use the word pseudocoelom. Before that, previous phylum that we studied, they are acoelomate. It means it doesn't having coelom. But here in Nematoda, we had studied a terminology pseudocoelom, means coelom getting start to develop, but it is not properly developed, so we use the word pseudocoelom. Example of nematodes, Ascaris, Wucheria. The another phylum we have is Annelida. Annelida word means segmented body. It means all the animals in this phylum having the main feature that their body is segmented. They have cylindrical body. Their body is bilateral symmetrical and triploblastic. They have true body cavity and organ. Now their body cavity is properly developed, so we can use a word here, coelomate. They having a proper coelom. Or we can use they have true body cavity and organs. They have tissues. They may be aquatic or terrestrial. It means they can survive. Their habitat may be aquatic and they can survive over land also. The example of Annelidas are earthworm, nereis, leech, etc. Now we comes to the largest phylum on earth, that is Arthropoda. Arthropoda means jointed appendages or jointed leg. So all the animals in this phylum having this feature that their legs are jointed. They have bilateral symmetrical and triploblastic body, means their body having properly symmetry, two laterals are there, and triploblastic means triple layer, triple germinal layer, ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderms play important role in the development of this phylum. They have an open circulatory system. The body is segmented and the body cavity is filled with the blood. The example of arthropodas are prawn, crab, cockroaches, spider, horseflies, centipede, etc. Now we have our next phylum, that is mollusk. Mollusk, a word means soft body. They have bilateral symmetry and the organs or triploblastic. There is a little segmented body. The coelomic cavity is reduced. They have open circulatory system. They have feet for moving around. The example of this phylum are snail, mussel, chitin, octopus, etc. So remember, students, that you all have to pay attention on the main feature of the phylum. Each and every phylum, like mollusca, having the main feature soft body. So all the organisms in this phylum having the feature that body is very soft. Now the third, that is Echinodermata. Echinodermata phylum consists the following characteristics. Echinodermates means their body or the skin is very spiny. So the features are, they are marine animals. They are triploblastic and have body cavity which is properly developed. They have a hard skeleton made of calcium carbonate. Some of the example of echinodermates are starfish, Antedon, Holothuria, etc. Starfish picture is, you can see at the bottom of the slide. Now the another phylum we have, that is Protochordata. Protochordata phylum consists of the following features. They have bilateral symmetric and triploblastic body. They have coelomic cavity. It means their body cavity is properly developed again. They have a notochord, which is long rod-like structure along its back of the animal, separating the nervous tissue from the gut and help in the movement. Mostly the animals are marine in this phylum. The example are Balanglossus, Herdmania, Amphioxus, etc. And this figure of Balanglossus is mentioned at the bottom of the slide. So you all can see that having the above mentioned structure and the characteristics. Now we have the 10th phylum or the last phylum, that is Vertebrata. Vertebrata consists the following main features. They have a true vertebral column and internal skeleton. They are triploblastic and have bilateral symmetry. They have coelomic cavity and they have two pair of fins and limb. Vertebrates are grouped into 5 classes. They are Pisces, Amphibia, Reptilia, Aves and Mammalia. Under class Pisces of Vertebrata, we have the following feature. They have plastic and have bilateral symmetry. So under the species class, animals or organisms have triploblastic and have bilateral symmetry. They are aquatic animals. They respire using gills. They are oviparous. They have streamlined body. They are cold-blooded animals. Some of the example of species are Scalodon, Rohu, seahorse, stingray, etc. And you all know they having all the features. They live in aquatic media. They respire through gills. They are oviparous. Oviparous means they lay eggs. The body is streamlined, which make them easier to swim in underwater. And remember that all animals are cold-blooded animal. Now, under vertebrata, the second class is amphibia. Amphibia, the characteristics of this class is that they are both aquatic and terrestrial. They have three-chambered heart. Respiration is through either gills or lungs. That depends on the situation. As on land they breathe through lungs, they respire through lungs, but as when they are present in water, then they use gills. Another feature is they are oviparous, means they produces egg. They lay eggs. The example of amphibia class are Rana tigrina, hyla, toads, etc. Now we have the third class under the phylum vertebrata, that is reptilia. Reptilia consists the following characteristics. They are cold-blooded animal. They can breathe through lungs. They are terrestrial animal, so that's why they can breathe through lungs. They have three-chambered heart. Most of the reptilians having three-chambered heart. Exception is there, crocodile. Crocodile is the only one which have four-chambered heart. They lay eggs in water. And some of the example of reptilias are cobra, the snake, and lizards, turtle, etc. Now under the phylum vertebrata, we have the fourth class, aves. Aves consist the aerial animals. So having the following features. They are warm-blooded animals. They have four-chambered heart. They breathe through lungs. They can fly by their wings. So we can say that their forelimbs are modified into wings and they use those wings for flying purpose. Aves also lay eggs, so they are also oviparous. Some of the example of aves are crow, sparrow, duck, etc. Now under the phylum vertebrata, we have the last class, that is named as mammalia. Mammalia or mammals having the following features. They are warm-blooded animals. They have four-chambered heart. It means their heart consists of four-chambered. The special feature of mammalia is they have mammary glands. Mammary glands are the glands which gives milk to their young ones. So through these glands, the female of that group give milk and nourish to their child or the babies. The skin has hair and sweat glands. They are viviparous because they give birth to their young ones. Only the platypus and echidna are two examples of mammalia which lays eggs. Except these two, rest all organisms of this class are viviparous, means they give birth to their young ones. Examples under mammalia are bats, human, rat, cat, whale, etc. they all having the above mentioned features. So this is all about this chapter. Thank you.